Hi there, this is Sheena Rowlands and today I'm sharing with you my latest layout for the Hey Little Magpie scrapbook store. So for this layout I'm going to be using the Vicki Boutin print shop range, and I've picked out all the blues, yellows and greens, and that's what I'm aiming to use for this layout today. I've got the 12 by 12 paper pad, and I really like this paper with the blue like paint stripes. So I decided I'm going to cut those out and use them on this layout. So I'm just going to trim them all off and get them into some sort of position. I'm not going to shorten them yet because knowing my look I'll probably make them a little bit too short. So I'm just going to trim them off and line them up. Because I use the 12 by 12 paper pad and I've got two of these, I feel a little bit easier about cutting into it just like this. I always find it difficult to break into a range for some reason, I don't know, but once I start to cut into it, it seems to make it easier. Sometimes I feel like I'm collecting collections rather than using them, but because the paper on the back of this is really nice. It's got like black type journaling. It looks really nice, so that you may see the other side of this or the other sheet appear on a layout soon. So I'm just going to distress the edges and bend the sides up a little bit, and look, I want them to run pretty centrally across the page. That's the original plan. This distress tool that I'm using is just I think it's from Prima. It's very old now. Always looks like a foot sander to me, but it's very useful, and I'm just going to give that paper a bit of a distress. So now I'm going to trim them down a little bit. I'm going to mark where they hang off the 12 by 12 paper, because I'm actually going to take them over to the sewing machine and sew down the centres. I've just done that in white cotton, so it's not very obvious, but it's another level of texture. So I've gone through the Vicki Boutin like foundation pad. It's got all the mixed media already done for you, and it's absolutely like ready to use mixed media pages. And I've picked this background with the yellow circles on it, and I think that would be perfect to be underneath these arrows as such. I mean, you could make that mixed media yourself, and there are stencils in the range that are perfect as well, but for somebody that is not very confident or not used to it or doesn't have the supplies, this paper pad is absolutely brilliant. I do some mixed media, but I don't get very messy, so I just think it adds a whole new layer to this. So I'm just coming in with some wet glue, and I'm going to stick down these like arrow shapes just on where I've stitched them, because I want to then curl the edges up a little bit and just make sure they are all roughed up. That's why I cut them with scissors in the first place and not with any sort of trimmer, because I knew that the level of the edges, it was never going to be an issue. So because normally I'm a trimmer sort of girl, but I did use the scissors for this one because I knew it wouldn't really matter. So this is just some wet glue that I'm using there just to get those into place. I thought it was easier because that way they would definitely be stuck. I'm using the ruler down the centre just because I'm trying to look at the 6-inch mark so that they actually line up on both sides, and just, as I say, lifting the edges. So the photo will fill the gap in between. Now I was going to stick it in the trimmer, but it was too big, so I hand cut off the extra bits, and then I'm going to actually pop it in the trimmer and just straighten those up a little bit. But I like the way that's looking so far. I'm a bit tight with a range, so I will keep hold of those bits I just cut off, at least to start with, because you never know when you're going to need it. And with this range, I bought something I hadn't bought before, and it's a paper pack. So there's lots of layers you can use and bits and pieces, but they're very thin, and some of them are even like sticker-like, which is something I've not used before, but I really like them. I like the feel. I thought they were really good for tucking in around the photo and building up a number of layers without adding too much more thickness to it. So I tipped everything into a tray of colours that were similar to what I was using. So some of these flowers are actually die cut, some of them are stickers. If they are the sticker ones, I'm going to actually leave the backing on them, just to give them that support whilst they get stuck down. It's not the sort of thing where they'll actually lift away from the backing, so it's not a big deal at all. So I'm just adding a few of the die cut flowers and leaves and things either side, going with a bit of a diagonal feel, so top right and bottom left, just to go with the flow of the arrows. I'm going to add some journaling to the photo when it's all finished and off camera, because the photograph, even though you can't tell, is taken in the Buckingham Palace Gardens, and there were certain parts of it where you couldn't have parts of the building behind you, and we went to an open day where they took you around the gardens that you don't normally see as a member of the public, and you could spend a lot of time. You could take a picnic, you could just really enjoy the surroundings, and it was a fabulous day. The weather was good. You can see the roses behind us in the photograph. It was enjoyable, but yes, there were certain parts of the palace you could not have behind you in a photograph. So we were off to one side, and there were actually people watching and just making sure that you were behaving. So this is us with the garden. So you can't tell that we're at Buckingham Palace, but I know, and that's enough. And I will add that to the little tab on the side eventually that we're there. But it was an absolutely cracking day out. So I've added some black foam underneath the photograph just to lift it up, and that lifts it off the arrows so that it just makes it easier to tuck things underneath. As I say, I've got a couple of these paper layers underneath the photograph, just picking out the yellows and the like the tealy blues out of the other papers. It was actually way more coordinated than I thought it was going to be, because there's some beautiful colours in this range. I would really recommend you check it out in the shop. There's chipboard shapes, as I say, there's paper pack, there's stamps, there's stencils, there's ephemera. It's a really good but a really big range, so lots of choices, lots to suit everybody. I think this is one that you could actually use to actually scrapbook the majority of life events, because it's got such a wide range of colours and interest. So I'm doing what I do best, which is faffing, and I'm just trying to arrange things either side of the photograph. Now I really like the ticket, the like mustardy coloured, because it says day pass, and I thought that was perfect to kind of go with the fact that we were there for the day. So that really, even though that doesn't end up being the title, that's something that I wanted definitely to be there. I also didn't want to cover too much else up. I really liked the way that the arrow shape chevron-y thing had gone, so I didn't want to cover too much of that up. I also didn't want to cover up too much of the mixed media background. So I wanted that peeking out as well. So that was the way that I was thinking. So I think it's time to start to stick it all down. It looks like it came together easily. It did feel a bit like that, if I'm honest. I think once I'd got the arrow things sewn and stuck down, and I'd chosen the background, there were so many bits and pieces to choose from to add to it. In fact, I was trying not to add too much in the end. So I think sometimes by limiting your supplies, it kind of focuses your mind. I did struggle a little bit when it came to adding some sort of title. I feel like sometimes I get a bit old-fashioned. In the old days, you used to have your pattern paper and your photograph and your title, and I felt like there was like a formula for scrapbooking. Now that doesn't, it's not like that anymore. It's anything goes, but I still feel like there should be some sort of title, even if it's not huge. So I do have a good look through the stickers and the chipboard before I finish off. But it's funny that I'm still a little, I'm maybe stuck in my ways a little bit. But I'm just going through. I do like the way that's come together. I'm just making sure everything's stuck down, maybe a bit of foam pads behind a few things. So this is when I'm starting to think, what can I call this layout? What can I stick across that? Can I stick something across the ticket? That's the way that I'm thinking. Lots of different choices. I'm backwards and forwards. I found one that says taking pictures to save memories. I think that's really nice. Then I just came in, and I think that it's a distress oxide, and I'm just adding a few splatters, particularly below the photograph, because there was no mixed media on the pre-done background there. So I just wanted a few splatters to tie in the colours. But that's it, literally all I did to add to it. Thank you so much for watching this video. There'll be a full image in just a moment, and then there'll be some close-ups as well. I much appreciated that you're watching this video, hopefully to the end. If you can give me a thumbs up, give us a comment, ask me any questions if you want to, and hopefully I'll see you here again soon. Bye for now.